Welcome to Life in the Red States, where we try to restore common sense in these senseless times. I would like to introduce your host, Michael Stickler. Mike is a best-selling author, philanthropist, and highly sought-after conference speaker. He has a great show for us today.
Well, thank you so much for this great introduction. Hi, I'm Mike Stickler. I'm with Life in the Red States. I'm an author. I've been just trying to dig a little bit deeper in what's going on in the lives of people who are interested in freedom and living independently throughout this nation, and just trying to open up a conversation. And today, I've got a guy who really needs no introduction, Ammon Bundy. Ammon is running for governor in Idaho. Now, just to set the record straight, believe it or not, Ammon and I had never met until about 30 seconds ago. I'm good friends with his dad, and I wrote a book about Cliven Bundy and the standoff, and I mentioned Ammon about that book, but Ammon and I have just never had a chance to connect. And so today, this is a treat for me. Not only am I getting to meet hopefully a new friend, but also allow him to share why he's running for governor in Idaho. So Ammon Bundy, welcome to Life in the Red States.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
You bet. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about, why do you see a need to be that guy that that dark horse candidate, if you will, to run as governor in Idaho?
Well, I didn't want to be honest with you.
Right.
I really didn't. But everything that happened in 2020, happened here in Idaho too, where they decided that they could shut down our churches, that they could stop travel, that they could shut down businesses, that they could actually issue a health order that supposedly was to force us to actually stay in our residence until the government gave us permission to leave. And I take issue with those things. I do not believe that another man or woman or even a collective group of people have a right to tell me whether I can go and worship with other people, or I can assemble, or whether I can travel, or whether I can trade with people.
Mm-hmm.
I believe those are God-given rights. God created this earth, and he has a right to give them, and he gave them to each individual. And he didn't give them to a collective group of people, and he didn't give them to an individual that might call himself governor. And so that kind of was the beginning. I could see an issue, and I began to dig deeper in Idaho and what's been going on. And I saw, a huge problem where Idaho has been it has been Republican. And because of that, and it's been so dominant Republican, it's allowed a really deep, good old boys establishment to be rooted here. And that's never been challenged. And they have, used the government to enrich themselves. And they began to exercise authorities and build the bureaucracies of the state up in a way that in some ways is unique compared to other states. And it's very threatening to the individual liberty of the people of Idaho, to basically freedom here. And even though we are viewed as very conservative, we are losing our conservative soul here in Idaho. And the battle is, are we going to be conservative? Or are we going to be some perverted version of a Republican? And so when I saw that, and I saw the governor's race coming around, I began to watch closely who is going to throw their hat in, and kind of hoping that someone would, with some guts, go in there and fight this establishment, and also stand up to the Biden administration, that someone like that would come forth, and they didn't. And I began to feel urgings that I felt before, and believed that it was time for me to throw my hat in the ring. I felt I had a name. I felt at the time, I felt like I had enough resources, and I knew that people would come and surround me to help and assist me in that. And so that's what we're doing, and that's why we're doing it.
So I read somewhere that you have actually left your business, sold your business. Maybe I don't have that correctly, but you've left your business so that you can focus full time on that. Is that where you're at this place?
Yeah. So, I lived in Arizona, and I had multiple businesses down there. I had two businesses. I had a fleet maintenance business, and then I developed a software in the fleet maintenance industry, and was, running both those businesses. They were both successful businesses, and I sold them, and you know, have been using that, and the other funds that I receive, I've made some investments and so forth, to basically get me established here in this race. Um, and then of course I rely on a lot of people donating and so forth,
Sure.
not for my living, but for the campaign. And yeah, I have the ability right now to focus full time on this campaign, and I am doing that. It is it is what I'm doing, and I feel it is very important that Idaho become, that state that really is an example to the rest of the states of how they should run. And and I intend on becoming governor, applying the true principles of freedom, which will create prosperity, create peace, or create, just a thriving economy. And the challenge will be, how do you control the growth here in Idaho? It
Right.
won't be so much, you know, whether people can pay for their homes, which is a problem right now. Even getting homes, the housing cost is so high here that if our future doesn't change in Idaho, our youth and others coming here face the reality of never owning a home in Idaho.
Yeah.
That's just some of the realities of what this Republican establishment has put us, what position the Republican establishment has put us in here in Idaho.
So in your first 100 days, what do you plan to do? What do you plan to change, and what do you plan to bring on as a new initiative?
So day one, I plan on declaring that life begins, and that the state's resources should protect that life. And then I'm going to do a lot of learning. I'm not going to be a guy that just sits at his desk and, uh, pads the pocket of his buddies by signing a whole bunch of executive orders. I won't be doing that. I will be doing a lot of learning. I'll be doing a lot of meeting people, understanding people, because the executive branch of government will be under my control. And I need to understand what's going on in that branch and these agencies, these bureaucracies. I need to understand the ones that are that are actually helping the people and under constitutional authorities, and the ones that are not. And I want to take, I'm going to take probably a good 6 months learning what's going on in that in the executive branch, and learning who is a friend to liberty, who is a friend to the people, and who is not. And then I'm going to get real busy after pushing these authorities the government has taken, and going back to the legislative, judicial, and primarily back to the people of Idaho.
That's a great approach, Ammon. You know that all too often people come in with a set agenda. Often elected officials come in with a set agenda, and that agenda is established by somebody else.
That's right.
And then I think that's one of the things that Trump made a mistake in, is in administration, is he didn't really understand the bureaucracy that was around him, and how much it worked against him. He included into his administration many leftovers, hanger-oners, if you will, of other of the other administrations, and I think it in essence not only hurt him, but potentially doomed his success of his presidency. And so I think that's a good idea, and really digging deep, digging deep into who are these? Do we even need this bureaucracy?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and are these people really, like as you put it, friends of liberty? Not friends of mine, not in your case, friends of Ammon Bundy's, but friends of liberty.
That's right.
That's a really good approach. Now, how is Idaho's posture with the federal government going to change?
Well, we have seen, especially in the West, this assault, almost this slaughter of private property rights from the federal government coming into the states and literally dismantling, the right to ranches, the right to harvest timber, the right to actually even have a mining claim. And I'm just touching on just a few because I'm very familiar with them. And what has happened is, the federal government has come down upon individuals and families. And with the full force of the U.S. attorney's offices, which is a tremendous, the largest, most powerful, well-funded legal team ever known in the history of man.
Yeah.
I mean, and by leaps and bounds, the largest legal team ever known. And and then they take that legal team and in their own courts, they attack a family.
Right.
And that family has to somehow leave the fields and defend themselves, or they lose their property or even lose their liberty. Well, that's not going to happen in Idaho because that's the job of the state. The state needs to step in between and say, look, government, federal government, we're going to find out what is right here. And we're going to defend the people. We're going to make sure that the people have the resources and the mechanism to secure their property and their liberty. So it is the battle of the state to do that. It is the state's responsibility. I don't think the federal government should ever be able to come down upon individual families. I think it should be the state that fights that battle. Now, if people have to, they have to, and that's what's been going on. So that'll be something that'll happen in Idaho. The federal government will not come in unchecked and try to take, land, resources, minerals, or even prosecute the people in Idaho without Idaho being involved. They will, make sure that they are an advocate and a defender of the people. And that's just something that each state should do. And we know the reason why it hasn't been going on, and that is because the states are continually pandering for federal funding, and they don't want to offend the federal government. They don't want to do their job. They don't want to check and balance the federal government because, about a third of the budgets of each state is coming from the federal government. And it's something that we must do and be an example of it here in Idaho, so that people, can actually live free without the fear of the federal government coming down upon them just for using their own property.
Yeah. And I so agree. These Pelosi Biden bills that they're just passing, what'll turn out to be $7 trillion. And they claim that we're not going to have to pay for it out of our taxes. That they actually are just letting it out. They're going to hire 87,000 new IRS agents to go after us people to get the money that they're owed. Until you're on the receiving end of that, you just kind of go, oh, well, I guess it's needed. Until you're on the receiving end of that, you don't understand how horrifying that is and how draconian it is. And it really, the states have to, I don't know any other way but the states to push back.
Yeah.
There are unconscionable ways to think about, violent protests and all that kind of stuff. And we got to get the states to receive their rights and really start to push back. And, and Idaho's looked at here in the West, especially for those that are listening that are not in the West. Idaho's considered one of the freest states, one of the states that you want to move to. I live in Nevada. Nevada's turning into California. There's no doubt about it. We've lost so many of our rights in a very short amount of time. And so many people are now moving, looking at Nevada to move away from, because it's just a difficult place. And Idaho, Texas, Florida, those are the places that people look to move to. And which also, it kind of goes back into a management problem you're going to have as a governor, is you have all of these new lives coming into the state. I was just reading that Boise has a tenfold increase in real estate values, tenfold.
Yep.
What a house was $50,000 is now $500,000.
Yep.
That's frightening. And how normal citizens Idaho are going to be able to afford that, I don't understand that. And I can't help but to think that has a lot to do with the influx of people coming from out of state.
Yeah, it's a supply and demand problem when it really comes down to it. But the problem, or part of the thing you have to understand, is that, so there's a lot of supply that we have that we're not being able to access. 63% of our land mass in Idaho is federally controlled. And so we are literally fighting over the other, percentage, 37%. We're fighting over that. And not only that, the majority of that 37% is agricultural land. So now we're building on our agricultural land, which is the, number one economy in Idaho. So we're not only destroying our ability to have affordable housing, but we're also destroying our number one economy, all because the federal government on 63% of our land. Well, that's another fight that I will take. That's another fight that I will fight in Idaho, because it immediately alleviates us destroying our number one economy, and also the supply and demand problem we have when it comes to housing. And it also stops something else, and that is so many people coming in and becoming these huge congested cities,
right.
Which changes people's, thinking, and they start to think and become more liberal, and you lose that conservative, thinking. And so we're going to prevent that by opening up these lands and making them more available to the people. So, that's just the reality of what some of the things that I'll be doing as a governor. And they're absolutely needed. It's not even really optional. They're absolutely needed.
So how would you delineate the differences of you and your two opposing candidates, those you're running against in the primary here?
Yeah, so I'm running against the governor, and
Mhm.
I'm running against the lieutenant governor. And the governor is the same governor that issued a executive order here in Idaho using martial law authority, requiring people to stay in their homes without their permission, requiring threatening people that if they go to church, they'll be arrested. They actually did arrest people for going to church here in Idaho.
Right.
Also, traveling, saying we had to have essential worker identification cards in order to travel, or at least essential worker identification to travel. And so I'm, he's a Republican, and people say he's a good guy, he's a nice guy, and actually he's a rancher. Well, he's up from a ranching family, even though he spent 37 years in the Idaho Senate. So, I'm not anything like him. He did what he did in order to receive federal funds. He didn't do it for the health of Idaho, for the protection of people. He did it so he can get federal funds. And that's very obvious. I got tons of evidence that is very convincing that that's why he did it, such as, every time he issued an executive order, it was the same time that the federal government was releasing money, and he did it in compliance of the federal government so he could get that money. And now he's received over $18 billion that he's taken to the office of the governor, and he's determined that he's going to spend that himself without any legislative oversight. So anyway, I'm not that guy. And then you go, okay, let's go to the lieutenant governor.
That's pretty well put, Ammon. I'm not that guy.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm just about as opposite as him as could possibly be.
Right.
And then you go to the lieutenant governor, and she's been in public office for 12 years. It's quite a run. During this COVID stuff, she applied for COVID relief for her personal business and received, I've heard numbers. I know it was right around 400,000 for sure. I've heard numbers up to 600,000, but I know that she received almost 400,000 for herself, for her business. She stood silent the entire time while people were being arrested for going to church. Moms were being arrested in Idaho for taking their kids to the park. Businesses were being raided because they weren't following, the governor's orders, and she just stood silent and did nothing the entire time. And then since then has tried to do since she decided she was going to run for governor, done some little political stunts to try to make it look like she's a strong conservative. And ultimately, when you look at her voting record, it's pretty much the same as Brad Little, who's the governor. And so, I'm not her either. I'm not, those people. I'm not in it for myself. I truly want to set things right so that the liberty and the example of liberty can perpetuate for many generations here in Idaho, and maybe other states will also follow suit, because it will bring tremendous prosperity and peace, tranquility, and it'll bring a lot of people to Idaho, which is not necessarily a good thing. But I do want to address that if I can, Michael. What kind of growth that I see, and how that can be alleviated in a good way. And I say that alleviated on purpose, even though it might not sound like the right word to put there. And the reason I say that is because, people move to a certain area, whether it's a state or whether it's a country, for one of three reasons. And they either want a handout, they want something, they want, the whatever's being the programs and whatever is being doled out, they want that. Another reason is, people come for criminal opportunity, because they can actually take advantage of people, become, wealthy or whatever, because there's criminal opportunity there. And the third type is those that want to come, want to work, want to be good neighbors, and they're just looking for freedom and opportunity to prosper. Well, we want the third type of people. We don't want the first two. And I believe it's very simple. If you don't want people to come for a handout, you don't offer it. And so one of the things as governor and head of the executive branch, I will be diminishing, tremendously diminishing the handouts. About a third of our budget, actually more than a third of our budget, almost 39% of our budget in Idaho goes to the health and welfare department to basically for handouts. Well, I will, eliminate the majority of that. And I will put it back onto the family and churches to be able to provide for those who are in short-term need. And I'll end these long-term programs that make generational welfare junkies out of people in Idaho. And what that'll do is a lot of people will leave Idaho. And where would they go? They'll go to Oregon. They'll go to Washington. They'll go to California. They will actually leave. The people we don't want here will actually leave. And I have no shame in saying that. I mean, I truly believe that you should live among people that you associate with, believe that it's best that way. And so if they want handouts, they can go to Oregon, who is literally destroying itself.
Right.
They've got the best programs. You know, you can live off the government and you know be and thrive, you know, financially in that state and do nothing. So let them go there and do that. Um, and then those who want to come to Idaho for criminal opportunity, well, I intend on strengthening the criminal justice system to become a system of restitution rather than a system of incarceration. And so that, you know, that is the proper way to, you know, punish crime. It's the only just way to punish crime. And it also is the way to really rehabilitate a person who has done that. And you require them to pay back the damages to the victim. And when that happens, then both the victim is restored and the perpetrator is rehabilitated.
Right.
And people, it'll send a message throughout the world: don't go to Idaho, commit crime. They actually make you pay it back. They actually make you, you know, correct the damages the best you can. Don't go there. And then that'll leave the people that we want coming to Idaho. People that want to work, people that want to be good neighbors, people that want to prosper and live in peace. That's who will be coming to Idaho. And you'll see the freeway filled with people coming and the freeway filled with people going. And we'll fill Idaho with the right people, the best people, the salt of the earth. And just simply that alone will cause an economic boost in Idaho that'll be probably only comparable to the early days of the United States of America or colonial America.
Yeah, you know, a lot of the listeners, and I doubt you know this, but for 25 years, I have worked in the justice system, sometimes as a missionary. And what people don't understand about how the justice system works and the benevolent system, as you're talking about it, welfare system, people will actually, just as you described, will move to an area where they can live on the dole. I think of one woman I knew back in the 90s who actually lived in a homeless mission that I ran, who moved to Oregon, and I saw her just a couple of years ago, and she still she moved there specifically so that she could live on the welfare system. And I asked her, "What are you doing now?" And she says, "I'm mostly just sitting around watching my butt grow." That's exactly what she said. And I'm thinking, she's getting around $36,000 a year. You know, her kids are all grown; they're all on welfare too, and she's done nothing since the 90s. You know, since the 90s, she's just lived there and collected that check. And then what you're talking about in the justice system, and it's so needed, that complete restorative approach of completing the circle, or as the Old Testament would call it, is the shalom, bringing peace to the community, of allowing that person who did someone wrong, not just allowing, but requiring them to come and be completely restored back, not just to the community, but restored back to the person that they violated. And I think that that will be revolutionary if you can get it done. I mean, I would love to see that be accomplished. What a great approach. Now, so my next thought is, you get a lot of just because you carry the name and some of your history in the background, you get a lot of detractors. I was recently reading an article that was done at the first of the month, 1st of November. I think it was from Deseret News. They call you an anti-government governor. How do you respond to that?
Oh, these reporters, they like to label lynch. They do it so that they can, you know, be a little more inflammatory, so people will actually read the third and second line of their article. And so that they've made up that name. They don't even know what it means themselves. They really don't. I've for almost a decade now have spoken and gone all over the Western United States, professing how we need to come back to the Constitution of both the US and the state constitutions in order to shore up this mechanism of that is really created to protect liberty, this mechanism we call government. And so I find it, and I have been involved in efforts to legislate. I have been, very active in assembling people to influence government. I have stood against them, many, many times because of their usurpations or things that they have done that, have been harmful to the people. And if I was anti-government, I wouldn't care about any of that. I would just, be building a bomb shelter somewhere and preparing for the worst.
Right.
So yeah, but I found that, these reporters that work for these mainstream media, they're basically just, most of them are young people. And they are being told what to do and what to say. And they're just tools, and they're not very intelligent, most of them. I run into a few older ones, and they're different. They're more like part of the system, they're part of the agenda. But a large amount of these reporters that I speak to are, they really just, become part of the woke, I don't know, the woke movement, and they're just doing what they're told.
Yeah. I don't know if you realize this, but during your trial in Nevada, I was sitting behind the prosecutor's side, taking notes for your dad's book. And I was sitting amongst all the reporters over there. And there was a couple of things that I found pretty amazing. One, how they relied upon one another to literally orchestrate a narrative. So there's, let's say, 15 reporters all around me, and they were all coordinating together to come up with the same story. I found that pretty amazing. And then the other thing that I found amazing, and I wrote about it in Ammon Bundy, American Patriot, was that they were literally angry at the citizen reporters who had bigger audiences than they did.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling. I mean, they were literally angry about it, and they would talk very vulgarly about the fact that little Andrea would go out and do her noon reporting and have 13,000 viewers, and they couldn't muster 4,000 viewers amongst all of them. And so there's a jealousy. I think I really agree with you, the fact that they're not real smart. They're young, they follow directions, and then there's so much confirmation bias that the biology of being a journalist today, the organism of being a journalist today, is so closed off. They have no idea what's going on in the real world. They have no idea. They're disconnected completely from it. And
Well,
go ahead.
there's an example of, I've gone all over the state multiple times here in Idaho. I met with hundreds of people at a time, and ultimately thousands of people. And I have gone in these meetings because they'll be concerned about, like, well, what are you going to do about the Idaho Statesman, who's kind of the main media outlet here in Idaho? What are you going to do about them talking bad about you? And I have, again, all over the state, up north, out east, here in the Boise area, I have asked these people if if they would raise their hand if they're subscribed to the Idaho Statesman. And again, I've done this with now, hundreds and hundreds of people, and not one person has raised their hand to say that they've been subscribed. And I even did it at the amphitheater in the Boise State University, at Boise State University. Not one person raised their hand, they're a subscriber to the Idaho Statesman. And I've used that as example over and over to say, look, they don't have the influence that you think they do. Yeah, they have they have resources. They're basically collectively controlled by, really only a couple different outfits.
Right,
And
right.
They have their 13 and a half subscribers, and
Right.
they're never going to vote for me anyway. So I'm not too concerned about what they say. I'm not going to respond to what they say. And they know that, just like you mentioned, those reporters are very jealous about that. Yeah, I watched somebody like Pete Santilli down at the refuge in Oregon, have millions of viewers while he's pushing this live on the Bundy Ranch Facebook page. During that time, we had 6 million plus people, on that during the day, all the time.
Right.
And these reporters are not as influential as they want to be, which again kind of shows why we have the canceling of, cancel culture, where these tech companies are canceling everybody because they have so much influence, and then they're not putting out the agenda that they want. So they start to cut everybody off and make it so that they can't have that reach.
Right. So if you become governor, Ammon, you're going to be in in that group of governors, a small group of governors within the United States. And who are you going to find allies with?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know yet. I like some of the things that some other governors have done. But I would, need to find out who truly is an ally and who is not. I don't mind standing on my own. I do believe that people will come to be an ally to me, come to me for that. I do live by a pretty strict set of rules, of principles, I should say, that I won't compromise, because I feel duty bound, and I feel that it is, to be right with God. That's how I have to be. And so I won't be compromising those in order to find a friend. Although I see the very reality of, working with, let's say, a governor like in Florida, where our airlines, where we have an airline that flies from, here to Florida, flies from here to Texas, from here to, hey bud, from here to, there's my little guy. You won't let me finish this, okay? And does that freely, without requiring vaccinations, requiring masks.
Right.
I believe that there's opportunity for that, for trade, for travel, and I believe that it could be beneficial to the states that are willing to align and unite that way. And so I will be looking for opportunities to work with other states and other governors in making it beneficial for the people to be able to exercise their right to travel, to trade, to worship, to assemble, to do the things that it could be beneficial with other states that think the same as us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're onto something there, especially in the area of tourism and the economic impact that tourism could have to Idaho. Idaho is it's such a beautiful state, and it could be, it's really undiscovered. People think about Montana or Wyoming as a beautiful state. Well, Idaho is a beautiful state that's just not discovered as readily. And so
Yeah.
that's a great idea, and really establishing, when somebody thinks about Florida, they think about beaches and blue water and ocean and that kind of thing. Well, the Floridians could be thinking about Idaho as the place to hunt and fish and see untamed raw wilderness. I mean,
Yeah, you might have the Biden administration out there, locking down all, the airports and all that.
right.
Well, with the governor and the state's influences, we'll open, an airport in Idaho and one in Florida, and yeah, our people get to go out there and enjoy their beaches, and they get to come out here and enjoy our mountains, and we'll truly trade with each other, and then if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. I mean, we're not going to live under the circumstance of some president or bureaucrat saying that you have to get a certain injection into your body in order to travel to another state and practically be able to do that, or put a man-made filter over your face, even though you morally disagree with it and it does no good. I mean, those type of things, will be explored, and other governors that are willing to, work with us in that way, we'll be able to overcome that and create a pretty good ability to enjoy that stuff, even though all the states around us might be locked down. They might be living a completely different life than us.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So as we kind of look towards winding our time together up, you say, restate again what you're going to do on the first day as governor. I want to make sure everybody heard that.
So I'm going to declare through executive order, this will be an executive order that I will do, that life begins at conception, and that it is the duty of the state to protect that life, and that all the resources that we use and the mechanisms and the processes that we use to protect life in any other circumstance will be used to protect the life of the innocent as well. That I will do at day one. And then, as I said, I'm going to do a lot of learning, and probably not going to do a whole lot of actual changing for the first 6 months, because I'm going to learn who in the executive branch of government in these bureaucracies are a friend to liberty and who are not. And then I'll be doing some serious reorganization, minimizing, eliminating within the executive branch.
Well, that statement alone, those first two statements, just sends chills down the spine of liberal people, and boy, I encourage it, especially both points, and they're equally. Your first point is more equal than the second, but still equally important to the citizens of Idaho. Great approach. What would you want to tell the citizens today why they should vote for you, the citizens of Idaho?
Well, I mean, I'm here to give them a choice. I'm a choice that's much different than any other choice they've had in our lifetime. And you have an opportunity to make that choice. You could be afraid to do it, or you could vote for me, have confidence in me. One thing I will say, and that I have proven to do, is be effective. I am a man of action. I will act, and I have done it at my own risk, and I have done it with no benefit to myself. There's nothing I've done that have benefited myself. I came to help my dad in 2014. I asked for nothing, put myself at great risk along with others. I certainly was not alone, but did it for nothing more than standing up for what it was right. I did the same thing in Oregon, and asked for nothing for myself. Did it simply because there was a family that was in dire need of someone to shine light on what was happening and try to correct that situation. I was successful in both accounts. And anyway, so I will act. I will do it properly within the authority that I have as a governor. And I believe that that it is very simple to implement liberty. It's not a hard thing to do.
Right.
What's hard is to get rid of the implementations of things that are not liberty. And liberty will bring prosperity, peace. It'll bring tranquility. It'll bring everything that we want as a people. And it's already been proven to work. And I understand these principles and will apply them. And you can be sure that I will do that. I will not be an individual who makes a promise running as a candidate and does not keep that promise. That is not who I am. And history has shown that that's not who I am.
Ammon Bundy, you are a principled man, and it's good to know you. The apple didn't fall far from the tree, that's for sure. And so it's good to have you. I appreciate so very much. Now, clearly, what you want, the end here is that we need the citizens of Idaho to get out and vote for Ammon Bundy. And if you're outside of the state, there's a place to contribute to help you financially. Where can they do that?
So go to votebundy.com. It's just simple, votebundy.com. I've got tons of information there. There's 20 ways to help Ammon Bundy there in the support link. And then, of course, the donate. If you're out of the state, donate and share the messages. Yeah. I have a challenge, and just so you know, in many of the polls, I'm actually leading the polls. In many of the other polls, I'm actually in between the lieutenant governor and the governor, gaining on them. My momentum compared to the other two is tremendous. But in order to keep that momentum, I have to have resources. I have to have funds, and in order to publish media, create film, video, and then get it out there, we don't get any help from social media. We're banned for most of that. We don't get any help, so we have to do it through paid ads, and which has been very successful. And also, I've already, since I announced in June, I've already had 90, I think we counted the other day, 94 public meetings. I'm meeting almost every night with people, meet and greets, town halls, convocations. And so I won't waste your dollars. And if you're out of the state, think about dollar for dollar. You could support a conservative politician in Nevada who's never going to win, who's probably never going to win. Or you can support me, who has a good chance of winning. And then we can be the example of what needs to happen in other states. It can perpetuate from Idaho. So, I'm not telling you just to not support and work in your own state. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying dollar for dollar, what's happening here in Idaho will go a long, long ways. And not only that, I'll be probably 10 times more effective with $1 than Brad Little, the governor, will be. And probably, 7 to 8 times more effective than the lieutenant governor. We will stretch that dollar and do more good with it than probably anybody else will in any other election. So I'm asking for you to support me in that way. And votebundy.com is the place to do it.
All right, Ammon, I appreciate your time today so much. Hopefully I can get you back.
Absolutely.
To do this podcast again as we get a little bit closer to the election. I think that would be really beneficial. I just hope the best for you. I count you as one of the many what I really call the new blood of people, citizens who are tired of the way things are going, and they're running for Congress, they're running for Senate, they're running for governor, they're running for dog catcher to make a difference. And they're tired of the way things are going. You know, in 2016, I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to vote for anybody. My one vote would have been get rid of them all. That would have been my vote. And so this is a great time for a catalyst of change, and Ammon Bundy, I hope you will be that in Idaho. I thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. We'll do it again. And
Right.
I appreciate your time.
You bet. Appreciate you. So for those of you who are listeners to Life in the Red States, love for you to participate and join us for the next episode. We air every Friday at 6:30 p.m. Every Friday at 6:30 p.m. You can catch us right on this channel that you're watching. Of course, you can go directly to our website as well. And make sure you click and like and share. Make sure that you get this information to the others so that we can grow our audience and connect with those who are living, as I like to say, in free America. Until next time, may God bless each and every one of you.
Mike, what a great show. I want to thank you for joining us today. Life in the Red States is dedicated to giving a voice to the heart of this nation. Please follow this page on your social media and share it with your friends. If you would like to learn more about additional programming and resources, check out our website, lifeintheredstates.com.